Are you about to send a child off to college? Well, today you might want to check us out. We're talking about ways to save time and money while you earn your college degree on this episode of Coffee with Tea. Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Coffee with Tea. I'm your host, Tonia, and I'm excited. And I'm always excited. I'm thinking about that every time I bring that. I'm excited because this is going to actually save you some money. If you're the one who's about to send your child off to college, you want to catch up what Mr. Casey Woodard has to say. It says you graduated high school or college in less than half the time and half the cost. Is that what I'm reading?
That is correct. I graduated high school when I was 18, but I had gotten my bachelor's degree at 19 and my master's degree at 21.
That's what I said. I had to double check on this. He did this in half the time. And I want to ask, how did you do that? First of all, before we dive in, how are you handling this COVID-19? And then tell us how you did that.
Well, handling it pretty much the same way as everyone else. I'm making the best out of the situation. Admittedly a tough circumstance, but definitely since it eliminated some distractions in terms of being able to just use this extra time to try to get some work done, get the word out about this, and see how I can't help through this. But handling it, I guess, as well as I can, but definitely looking forward to the day where I'm able to walk outside and meet some people and hang out without masks, but making the best of it. And I was able to do it. There's a bunch of just really not very well known, but super accessible shortcuts to being able to get the same exact college degree from the same schools, get the same exact credits, and just do it at a fraction of the cost and at a fraction of the time. And whether that be, here, I'll list off a bunch of things that you may or may not have heard of: AP credits, CLEPs, straighter line, ICE, credit overload, whatever it might be. There are just an absolute ton of different strategies and opportunities available to every student, regardless of your intelligent level or subject matter expertise, that are just open for anybody to be able to just get through college really quickly and really affordably.
Like I said, I had to do it because I'm sitting here I'm reading and I'm like, yeah, you look so young, and you said you have a master's degree already, and I'm thinking, how does that?
I do.
So I'm sure you might get the same reaction, but I know you talked about the hacks, and of course we're not going to talk about all of it because we want everybody to read the book. You have to get the book. His book is entitled Student Discount: Get a College Degree for 50% off without scholarships and grants. And it's definitely a must read. So how did you actually come across this process? How did this really become, I guess your passion?
Sure. So it was definitely piece by piece. I didn't, walk into college really hardly knowing any of this. And for some background, that's one of the things I'm really passionate about is, everybody says, the typical way to save money on college is obviously to get scholarships. And those are obviously just an absolutely incredible tool. If you or your child or student aren't applying for scholarships, you really should. But a lot of the really good ones or really, valuable ones are only reserved for, the valedictorian, the genius, or the all-star athlete. And I was none of those. Just for some background, in the 10th grade alone, I failed math, history, and science. And so I'm just really passionate about the idea that, hey, anybody can save money on college, and it doesn't have anything to do with being, quote unquote, smart, or at least book smart or intelligent. So I walked into college, and in high school, the big thing was no matter how well I did at school, it didn't feel like it really impacted me at all, other than, I'd have a few points higher of a GPA, or if I behaved better, I'd spend a little less time in detention. But at the end of the day, I was there from 8 to 3 every single day for 4 years. And, no matter how good of a student I was, that nothing changed. But when I started college, I realized that nobody's keeping me here, in a sense, that if I wanted to work harder, if I wanted to find hacks or shortcuts or whatever you want to call it, I could get through college way quicker, and that would have a huge impact upon my future. I'm sure, a lot of your listeners are aware of the power of compound interest. The difference at retirement, if somebody graduates at the age of 23 and spends $200,000 on a degree versus someone who graduates at 21, and only spends $100,000 on a degree, but they have that extra 2 years of work experience making about $55,000, which is the average college graduate salary. At the age of 65, because of compound interest, that person who graduates sooner has over $2 million more in their bank account simply because they graduated 2 years earlier and found a way to spend half the amount on college.
Wow.
And in high school, that's never an option. You know, you're spending 4 years no matter how good you do, unless, you know, every now and then a school might push you ahead of grade. But in college, the freedom is there for anybody. And I realized that, hey, I'm going to find every way possible to become that second student. And so that was the impetus of what caused me to really start learning about all of this. And then I just started, you know, looking it up online, asking people who might have graduated, you know, a semester, a year early, and just trying to compile just an all-encompassing strategy of how I'm able to do it. And I know it sounds cliche, but like I said, I wasn't a great high school student. So if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Right. So I'm fascinated with your story, and I know we talk about numbers and stuff like that, but really, I guess a lot of my listeners would be like, do you, I'm trying to figure out how to even begin, because like I said, it's like such a phenomenon, you know, that, like I said, you're so young. Now, here's my question, I guess. We got through the college and stuff. Do you feel like it is hindering you now, or people are, you know, are they taking you serious? You know, I'm not trying to be mean or anything.
Sure.
Like,
No, I completely understand.
Do you have to struggle with that, you know, because you did go through so fast? Do you have that struggle?
Sure. So it definitely gets some weird looks. But after you talk to them, 9 times out of 10, at risk of coming off, you know, the wrong way, like they usually come off more impressed than, you know, like I said, I think anybody can do this. I don't think I'm particularly, you know, intelligent or book smart. But obviously, like, it is a feat, to say the least. And so when they hear that, it's normally like, okay, sure, he's younger. But, you know, in terms of a job context, I mean, is there a huge difference between hiring a 22-year-old or a 24-year-old? And especially, hey, like, we know somebody's coming out at 22 and was able to get their master's degree. It gets some weird looks and it takes a little explaining, but clearly, at least I assume if you're asking from the perspective of, you know, when it came to me searching for jobs, if anything, it really displayed, you know, a bias towards action or just the fact that I'm willing to work hard to accomplish goals. So it's definitely a weird thing, you know, when people first hear it. I do have the luxury of having a bit of facial hair. So normally people will give me the benefit of the doubt that maybe I'm a couple years older than I am. But yeah, it gets weird looks, but I don't feel like it's hindered me at all. And in a lot of capacities, I feel like it's almost helped because, in a way, sort of displayed, or I have a way to show that, hey, I'm not just talk. Like, if I'm working for you, I know how to work. I know how to find a way to get things done. And in a way, it's almost, you know, unconventionality, or shows like creativity that, hey, people do this the entire way, and maybe at the company I'm applying to work for, they do it this way, but I'm going to find a way to do it differently if there's a better way to do it.
Right.
So it definitely is a weird thing for a lot of people, but I don't feel like it's been a negative thing at all.
Right,
and
right.
Like I said, the benefits for me personally, or for anybody who's able to do this, I feel like far outweigh the negatives of I look a little young for my credentials, if you will.
Right. Like I said, I'm not trying to put any, you know, discredit. I'm just right. Like I said, those might be
Absolutely,
some
I
of the things,
understand.
like parents are thinking, like, well, who's going to take my child serious if they've gone through, you know, they don't have the, you know, they think they don't have the experience. So that's really where the question is coming from. So
yeah, I completely understand.
I always try to think like the perspective of like the audience, like if you know you come through. So the question is like, what would you really want to like? I guess the biggest experience of learning this is really, what would you really encourage students who are struggling with school to, you know, to look into this kind of stuff? It's college really for them, and how, you know, because you know, like I said, you fell through school, so how did this become, like I said, a crusade? I would say a crusade for you, because.
Yeah, so I think the way that it became a passion for me for helping other people is the same way that it started, where I had that flicker moment where I feel like for a lot of people, not everyone, but especially in more like affluent areas or just the United States, it's really taught that just the trajectory of most at least like middle class and up, your trajectory is just going to be your start in kindergarten, go through 12th grade. You'll apply to college. You'll go there for 4 years or so. And then it's only at that point that you can really say, like, here's what I want to do with my life, or here's what I want to make of myself. And I just don't feel like that's the best approach for most people. And I believe that college is an absolutely incredible tool, for better or for worse. If, somebody's 18 years old, 22 years old, and they're applying for a job, perhaps unfortunately, the job description isn't going to say must know XYZ about a particular topic. It says you have to have a degree in a certain subject matter. So for better or for worse, a lot of people do need college degrees, but I feel like the one thing that I would really try to impress upon either parents or students is do the research and just be informed about why you're making a decision. Because a 4-year degree is pushed as the status quo, but it doesn't need to be. Like I said, I was able to do it quickly, and I know a bunch of other people who were as well and were able to benefit from it. And I know a lot of people who took 4 years or even more, and that was the right decision for them. So it's not me saying, hey, get through college and as fast as you can all of the time, no matter what. It's be intentional, make the right decision. And even like when I said a 4-year degree is the status quo, I'd love to hear what do you think? And maybe I'm going to bias it by asking this question, but what percentage of students do you think actually graduate within 4 years, with the rest either taking longer than 4 years or just dropping out?
I don't think it's very high. I went to the military route, so
Okay, that's
so
a great move.
I'm probably not the great person to ask, because like I didn't even go through school. I was like, I'll do the military route. So, I'm assuming it's high because you're tacking on more money as they go through, and I know money being a big issue why people drop out is a big reason. So.
Yeah, so the average, only 33.3% of people who start college finish within 4 years, just 1/3. Wow. And less than 60% even finish in 6. And the rest either drop out longer, either take longer, or they drop out. And so my big, spiel is that the people who dropped out or took 6 or 7 years, it's not because they were planning on it. It's because they didn't have a plan. And so I'm not saying everyone should finish in 2 years like I did. I'm just saying, whatever you do, just go and do it with a plan, and, just be intentional about the reason you're doing it. As an 18-year-old, you're about to spend 6 figures on college. This will be the biggest purchase, one of the biggest purchases you ever make in your life. So you should approach it as such, I think.
So my question, and that brings up another good question, because you're like 18, and like I said, and what made you want to go through faster? Is it just because you knew the system was faster, or you were intentional about getting through, seems, at that rate of speed? Was there something that pushed you to do that, or what would make the person think about that kind of stuff is what I'm, I guess, trying to ask.
Yeah, so part of it was, I guess to an extent, I stumbled into doing it quite as well as I did. My original goal was I wanted to finish in 3 years. And that just, like I said, it originally came just from me looking into it and realizing the average 4-year degree at a private school is over $200,000. At a public school, it's, somewhere between $110,000 and $160,000. And that's just for if you take 4 years. And if I'm able to cut a year off of me paying money, and instead I'm working and I'm making money, that's just huge for my eventual future. Not to mention, if I have an extra year of work experience, I'm more likely to get, a promotion a year early compared to other people my age in general. So I just realized that the sooner I'm able to finish college, the better it'll be for my future self. Like, I might be giving up a little fun in the here and now, but long-term it'll be worth it. And not to mention COVID-19, well, it's, a tragedy. It's a great, impetus or kick in the pants for students now who are, everything fun about college is just stopped. I live in a college town right now, and you can't do anything that's the traditional college experience. And so now is a great time to get going at it and really to put the work in now. But the original driving factor behind that was I'm willing to sacrifice in the short term because I realize long term it's going to be worth it. And the more I looked into different ways of how I'm able to do this, the more I realized, I can do this way faster than 3 years, and I can do it easier too. Originally, it was just going to be, I'm going to take a lot of classes. And instead it was, hey, I found a way to, and we can get into this, a typical college class costs $1,500 and you're in there for 4 months. I found a way to take it for $89 and have it done in 90 minutes. And I did that a bunch. Less headaches, less stress. It's just easier. I worked a couple jobs. I had fun with friends, like all that typical college experience. You know, I went on spring break every year. My brother studied abroad in Europe and I was able to visit him. Like college was just as easy to me as it seemed like it was to everyone else. And it's because I didn't really have to work harder. I just had to find hacks or shortcuts or work smarter, if you will.
Right.
But the original reason behind that was just, I'm willing to sacrifice in the short term because long term, the pros are just gonna far outweigh the cons.
Right, right. And I want to remind listeners that if you're Casey's dropping some big nuggets, and if you're picking them up and you're enjoying what he has to say, please make sure you hit that subscribe button and leave a comment in there. We'll know that you enjoy it by giving us a thumbs up. And also, my next question is really comes down to, this doesn't necessarily have to be for the degree. Can you use some of these for like taking just like certificate classes for like people who want to go back and you know, hone their skills? You know, that's what I'm trying to say. Can they use these as well?
Yeah, so majority of my work with this book as well as my online course, all of that will pretty much apply universally to bachelor's degree programs. However, there is going to be some crossover, whether that be towards certification programs, even, you know, grad degrees. Like I said, not only my bachelor's degree, but I was able to cut my master's degree in half as well. I have friends who are, you know, getting certifications or certificate degrees, and I've seen there's been some crossover. However, it is going to be a little bit more hit or miss depending on, you know, the school that you're going to, the certification you're looking for, and just the different things they're going to allow. So there definitely is some crossover, but I would hesitate to speak confidently on specifically all the time certain strategies will or will not work. But there is going to be some crossover. And like I said, if one tip is even able to save one class, you know, hopefully it's worth it at that point.
Right, right. So, Mr. Casey, the question I always love to ask people is, what's the one thing you want to leave the listeners with?
Yeah, so I spoke to this earlier, but I think it's really just however you want to phrase it is be intentional or have a plan. Obviously, graduating in less than 2 years worked for me. I know some other people that might not be a good idea for. You spoke to wondering if, you know, whether I'm young, if that hurt my career prospects. For me personally, it didn't, but I could understand, you know, if somebody wanted to be a doctor or a nurse, like there's a pretty rigid, a pretty rigid pathway for your career progression and development. And I have friends who went to school for nursing. I couldn't imagine them finishing in 2 years. I know some who are, you know, they talked to me and they were able to use some of these strategies to still cut a semester or a year out. But that might not work for them. I know people who, if they wanted to go into really competitive job positions, you know, like investment banking, things like that, where they need those extra years to get internship experience, and that could affect you as well. And so I don't want to leave with people saying, hey, graduate early, it's going to be awesome for your future. There's, you know, all upside, no downside, or that it won't even be tough. I just want to, if there's one thing I can leave, it's just have a plan and, you know, figure out what you're going to do and do it for a reason. There's nothing wrong with, you know, taking a gap year to figure out what you want to do. There's nothing wrong with not going to college. But the thing is, just don't walk into it hoping that you'll figure it out, or don't spend $200,000 before you even have a plan for what you're going to get out of it. So if there's one thing I can leave everyone with, it's just have a plan and be intentional about why you're doing what you're doing. And I guess that expands beyond college.
Right, right. Like I said, I love that. So, Mr. Casey, where can people find more information about you, your services, and getting your book?
Sure. So my website is cwoodard, which is my last name, CWOODARD.com. And there they'll be able to find links to my book, which is listed on Amazon, is both paperback and Kindle e-reader, as well as my online course. And then soon launching is a personal one-on-one consulting. So just a quick overview, distinction between those. The book is specifically for anybody who they or their child know, you know, where they want to go to school, what they want to study, and it's just all the tips and tricks to get through it as quickly, as affordably as possible. The online course is a lot more holistic, step-by-step. If you're in the 10th grade, and they'll walk through everything from how to get credits while you're in high school, the psychology and logistics behind choosing a school and a major, all the way to all the tips and tricks to saving money on college. We'll walk through how to apply for scholarships, all the different ways to be most likely to succeed and get the best ones. And even my favorite lesson I call textbook hacking is how to get all of your textbooks basically for free. The average student spends $1,300 every single year on textbooks, which is over $5,000 for 4 years. And I want to teach you or your student how to get them all for free. And that's a lesson in the online course. And then the personal consulting is the umbrella in which anything else might fall. If you want a custom developed plan for you or your student, or you just have any questions, that's the place to be. So cwoodard.com.
Well, thank you for your time. And I definitely want to reach out to you because I know this might produce a lot of questions. So would you be willing to come back, and have a further discussion about, what's happening and maybe you've answered some questions that the listeners might have?
I certainly would love to. If you get any questions in, I'd love to come back, and I'd absolutely love to be able to answer those. Like I said, I've created some stuff, but at the end of the day, like if you have a question, feel free to reach out to you or just email me at Casey@cwoodard. And I'm really big and passionate about this issue, just helping students, people my age get off to the right foot. So any questions any of your listeners might have, I would love to be able to tackle those the best way possible, especially with the way COVID has changed the entire landscape of college. I'm sure people are going to be doing their own research into this and seeing maybe this is what it took for people to realize that there's a better solution out there. So I'd love to answer any questions in the future.
Well, thank you, Mr. Casey. And I do want to shout out to Mr. Abden to connecting us. Yes, he is the man. And I also he's connected me with a lot of great people, and you're one of them. So thank you, Mr. Abden, for this stuff.
He is awesome. Thank you, Abden.
And I also want to say thank you, Mr. Casey, for your knowledge and your wisdom for coming on and being a wonderful guest and host and allowing me to answer some questions like, the older person that I am.
Thank you so much for having me.
And I also want to reach out and let everyone know feedback is always welcome. All the links that Casey mentioned will be posted in the comments. Again, if you're enjoying the wisdom that he's sharing, give us a thumbs up, share us a comment, and let us know. And also, if you're getting any wisdom and insight that people are sharing besides Mr. Casey and everybody other guests that we have, please consider hitting the like button. We really need that support. And also remember, take things in stride, go with the flow, and create your own path. And again, thank you, Casey, for being here. Thank you for our listeners.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll see you on another episode of Coffee with Tea. So till then, have a great day. Share with us, what was one of your takeaways from today's show? Post your answers in the comments.